Now, if I could take one thing, one invention from science fiction books and movies into the real world, it would be time travel. The places and events I could go to would be endless. I could be present at historical events that happened 50 years ago, 100 years ago, thousands of years ago, whatever. But one of the things that I would do immediately is go back, travel to the US, go back in time to the year 1977, and be present at the premiere of Star Wars. I've been a fan of Star Wars for the longest time. I've seen the original trilogy thousands of times. Okay, that's maybe a bit exaggerated, but I've seen it a lot of times. And as a kid, I loved the Clone Wars. And now, thanks to a colleague's Disney Plus account, I could finally watch The Mandalorian. And in only a few days, I watched the whole show. And it was amazing. And ever since I watched The Mandalorian, my love for Star Wars has grown to extremes. So, as I wanted to watch the original trilogy in 4K again on Disney Plus, I remembered that this is not the Star Wars that I watched back then. Because back then I had the DVD release with the bonus theatrical edition of Star Wars. And for some reason I only watched this, so this is the Star Wars that I grew up with. And seeing these changes that were made 20 years or 23 years prior to me watching it right now was a bit strange. I know these special edition changes are not loved by fans and they are despised throughout the Star Wars community, but I never actively hated them until now. So I sat down, did some research and came across Project 4K77. The guys and girls probably over at Team Negative One have found an intact scan of the theatrical release of A New Hope, scanned it in at 4K and cleaned up a bit and released it to the public. It's now been available for roughly 2.5 years and it's the main way that a lot of people watch Star Wars nowadays, because Disney is incompetent and doesn't release the original version of Star Wars that fans have wanted for 20 years. A multi-billion company will not release it, but a fan project will do, and it looks incredible. It really does. So what stood out to me was the clarity of the picture. Now, I've never seen Star Wars in 4K, and this was really a mind-blowing experience. The colors were a bit off at some points. I mean, the 2004 DVD release was corrected. The colors were graded in a special way so that every scene looked consistent. Now, with the theatrical release, it was of course captured on film. And film has some artifacts when you're recording it. So lighting can look so different depending on what angle you're filming at, what scene you're filming at, or what hour of the day you're filming at. Okay, that last one probably makes the least sense, but there's film artifacts in this one, but they add to the flair of watching an original theatrical version of Star Wars. And it doesn't stop there. They're currently working on Empire Strikes Back and are expected to finish this or next year, and they've already done Return of the Jedi last year. And it also looks incredible. And there are also multiple versions of Return of the Jedi. I don't know if there are multiple versions of 4K77, but there are multiple versions of 4K83, depending on what noise reduction you like. With no noise reduction, with just a bit of clean up from the film artifacts that just happen over time, or a minimum noise reduction, which is the version I prefer, or digital noise reduction, which is a clean image, but some faces look too smooth, and you know, I like the detail more than a really clean experience, so I chose the minimum noise reduction, which is approximately 15% noise reduction on the entire movie. Now, technically, it is really an achievement, and it's awesome that fan edits have come so far that they've actually sourced a version that was shown in theaters, scanned it, and just released it. And they also added some bonus features, so there are multiple versions of audio. So there's the audio from the film strip, which was remastered, then there's the audio from the Laserdisc, and there's also a mono version, which is exclusive to this version of Star Wars. Now, to give you an idea what it looks like, here's some footage of it. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna put here, but this is what it looks like, and it's just amazing. It looks brilliant. And I really hope that Disney someday releases the original unedited trilogy, because I would kill to have this version on my shelf as a 4K Blu-ray and not the version that's out currently. I'm gonna talk about this version in the next video, but don't buy it. It's just a waste of money. Watch this. There's no official way you can get it right now, but if you know some sources, you can get it through some websites and some, let's call it, alternative browsers. And to be clear, some people like the idea of the special editions, and they liked the vision that George Lucas had to make them look like he intended to, but couldn't because of budgetary reasons or time or technical reasons, which is the argument that he brings up the most. And I don't completely hate the special editions. There are some changes that I like about the special edition, and that I even prefer than the original version. For example, in Empire, it's Cloud City. It looks phenomenal. It just looks better than the original trilogy. But what I fucking despise are those useless, nonsensical changes that don't add anything to the movie, or more or less take you out of the movie watching experience, because there's a fucking green monster walking right in front the movie camera. What the fuck? Why was this ever released as an official version of Star Wars? It looks god-awful. If George Lucas had done this maybe 10 years later, like a 30th anniversary edition, this also wouldn't look perfect, but it would look better. It would look a lot better. And this goes for every CGI shot. Like, some of them are alright, some of them are even impressive for 1997, but they just don't hold up. And they could have easily fixed that if they get a hold of the files, re-render them, and then release them. If Disney would have at least done that, then I would have been okay, because now they look good. In 2020 we have the option of making things look real. 23 years prior we didn't have it, because technology was like this compared to what it is now. One of the questions I'll probably get under this video is if I know about Harmy's Despecialized Edition and Adiwan's Revisited Edition. Yes, I do, but I still prefer the Team Negative 1 scan of A New Hope and Return of the Jedi. Adiwan's edition is pretty good. Like, it is different, and he called it what the special editions should have been. And I somewhat agree with him. Like, Adiwan's version was the first one of these fan projects that I've heard of, like 5 years ago, maybe even longer. But back then I didn't even know how to acquire this, and I haven't watched it. And I haven't watched it to this day. Maybe I will in the future. Maybe I will review it and Harmy's Despecialized version as well. But I would say out of these three fan edits, Harmy's Despecialized is the least interesting, because he just took the Blu-ray and cut out the scenes that weren't in the theatrical version and put in some different source material to fill in what's now empty. For example, the green monster walking right in front of the fucking camera is now gone. I think he used like different sources like the Laserdisc and the DVD bonus, and it's like patchwork together. Whereas Team Negative 1 used one film strip that was shown in theaters, at least that's how I understand it. They say a lot of technical things on their website. I don't quite understand it, but as far as I know, they took one source and the scenes that were damaged were just taken from another source, because they acquired different versions, and they just it's also patchwork together, but a bit smoother. And to be clear, I don't want to discredit Harmy. It's also incredible work, but sadly Team Negative 1 just did a better job. Adiwan's version, I've seen a lot of short clips that showcase what he changed about them, and mostly he also removed the added scenes and the added CGI and put in his own CGI at a lot of places that that back then were just 2D graphics on a screen, because in 1977, what else could you display on a screen rather than just lines? I don't know if I'm going to be reviewing A New Hope and Return of the Jedi from Team Negative 1, because these movies are just well known and you could watch every other review of them and they would tell you as much information as I could. And if you clicked on this video, you probably know what happens in those movies and that I like those movies because I told you at the beginning. So I'm probably not gonna make a review. I just like Team Negative 1's version and I just wanted to make this video to tell you about it. Maybe some of you haven't known about it, but pretty big Star Wars channels like Hello Greedy have already made a video about it. So if you did know that these versions existed, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna tell you the same thing that Hello Greedy did. If you didn't, you're welcome that I showed you the best version of Star Wars. As I said, I can't directly link you to a download. Just get a alternative browser and go to some infamous websites, download them. They're pretty big, like depending on what noise reduction you want, they are between 60 and 90 gigabytes, and depending on how fast your network is, it can take up to like 2 days. Downloading Return of the Jedi version 1.2.2, which is the digital noise reduction version, took 29 hours, and that is a lot. That is really a lot. My PC, but it was worth it. It looks great. And that's it for this video. Next video is gonna be about the Blu-rays that were released now it's last year. The 4K Blu-rays to be specific, and why you should not buy them. They're just not worth it. Stream off of Disney Plus. It's cheaper and it makes more sense. But more in the next video. So thank you all for watching and for listening. Like, subscribe, whatever. See you.